Okay, ready?
Ready?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cozy Conversations. I am Harshita Anand, and I'm a counseling psychologist in India, and I will be your host. In the coming episodes, I will be interviewing some people who have consented to share their stories with you all, and me here, of course, in this platform. So, for today, I would like to start on the note that if you can't find the hope, I wish hope finds you instead. So, on that note, let's welcome Ishani Kundu, who is a fellow psychologist and a wonderful human being.
Oh,
So, Ishani, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
I think you can hold the mic. I
Yeah,
think that should be fine.
yeah,
Or
okay,
I could hold it since
yeah,
you've got
okay.
another device on your
Yeah,
lap.
yeah.
So like Harshita said, I am also a counseling psychologist. I have been working in the mental health field for about 5, 6 years now. As a therapist for the last 2 years, but in a few different roles just in the industry for the last a few more years than that.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, I know that a lot of people always like to hear about hobbies and, just other things that define them, but I've always felt so. I know this sounds a little too scripted, but like I've always found myself so passionate about mental health that like I've just enjoyed doing the work that I do, whether it's volunteering, whether it's my actual work. So that ends up often being a majority of my introduction. Um, but yeah.
That was pretty good. I can understand and I can pretty much relate as well. So let's begin with something very basic. So, can you share something about your background, which, which has really impacted your mental health journey and, which basically pushed you in this direction?
Ooh, get ready. So I feel like this is again another little bit of a cliche story,
Uh,
the story of every or almost most Indian kids. I come from a family of three engineers.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that itself says enough. But yeah, I was pretty much. Have you watched Three Idiots?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Wait, is yeah. Do you remember when the kid was born and they
Yeah.
hovered over him? They're like, "तुम footballer banoge," that
Yeah.
kind of thing, or
Yeah.
like instead of like saying all the other things. So
Yeah.
like when I was born, it was like, "तुम engineer banoge,"
Oh my
that kind
God.
of thing.
Oh
Because
my God.
of course, dad's an IIT graduate,
Oh my.
mom's an engineer,
Oh wow.
brother's destined to be one as well at that point. So that's what I was gonna be as well, but I don't think I was cut out for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I can see that. You're
yeah,
here.
yeah, exactly. Um, I actually won't say that I was pushed into science because I didn't really have much of an opinion
Mm-hmm.
on anything until like I was in 11th.
Oh, I believe it's the same for a lot of people.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
like especially when you come from like a bit of a sheltered Indian
Hmm.
family,
Hmm.
and when I say sheltered, it's just that they're protective. They don't
Yeah.
you're not allowed to go out alone. And I mean, when I was a kid, we didn't have internet as much. Um, I hear that people did, but my parents were pretty strict on not giving access that early. So there was very little exposure to like the world that exists outside of yourself in your house,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so I really didn't have much of an opinion. I think if you asked me in 10th if I wanted to take commerce or humanities, I'd be like, no. I'd probably be like, I think sound science makes the most sense. But also coming from CBSE, you don't really know what you're in
Oh
for
yeah.
when you go from 10th to 11th.
You don't.
So are you from CBSE?
Yeah,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
from
you get
CBSE.
me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that. So then I went into 11th and that's when the
Mm-hmm.
started. 11th and 12th was a roller coaster to say the least. So in our school, what used to happen is that it was one of the more good schools.
Ah.
So, people usually came to our school in 11th for
Mm-hmm.
science,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like the section that I was in, there were like 10 old students and like 30 new students,
Wow.
right? So it's a whole other kind of universe, which was actually good for me because I never really felt connected to
Mm-hmm.
people that I used to be around before that. I mean, I had friends, but it was more you just coexist kind of a friendship.
Yeah.
And I used to be really loud as a kid.
Really? I can't imagine that. I don't know why.
Overcompensation maybe,
Oh.
but so yeah, I remember bonding with a random new kid over One Direction.
Oh,
Someone told me
wow.
she liked One Direction. I was just like, oh my god, I like One Direction. We have something in
Mm-hmm.
common.
Mm-hmm.
So so yeah, I think, and then like it was interesting meeting new people, which
Mm-hmm.
you don't do very often when you're
Yeah.
that age. Building connections, that felt good. For some reason, it felt like a group of people that I could be friends with,
Mm-hmm.
and it was easy. It was strange, but it was easy. Um, I've gone off on a tangent, but these were the folks that kind of helped me survive my 11th and 12th,
Wow.
because otherwise it was an incredibly difficult journey, especially when you don't have an inclination or passion for science or the
Mm.
things that they teach you. It's really difficult. And I mean, now things are different, but back in our day, we didn't really have a choice. It was always
Yeah.
physics, chemistry, math, English, and computer science, or
Yeah.
like bio.
Yeah.
So there was really, now people can do psychology with science. We couldn't.
Yeah. Neither could we. I mean,
Yeah. So it was very restrictive. I had a horrible time with the course. Um, and I think it was along that way that I started to more and more realize that this is just not my thing. And
mm.
again, when you're a kid that doesn't know a lot, it's also an unfamiliar feeling that you don't know how to define,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
So, funnily enough, I think it was one summer vacation where I was like, I was feeling, I think the word now I would use is lonely. Obviously, I didn't know then what that word was.
Oh. Mm.
Um, I went on the internet, and I would not recommend doing this now because the internet has um, changed a lot. But I
Yes.
went on the internet and just said, I typed in like talk to a stranger.
Oh,
I would
wow.
not recommend doing that now.
Nobody would.
um,
Yeah.
but very interestingly enough, the internet back in the day got this site on my search landing page called Seven Cups.
Oh.
It's basically like a peer-to-peer mental health support kind of platform. I
Yeah.
was very intrigued. I mean, like, I had not seen anything like that ever before. So I was like, what is this? So I went on, and basically it's like a platform where you get to connect anonymously with other folks that want to talk about mental health, whether it's about their own journeys or whether it's about supporting someone else going through a difficult stage of their life.
Hmm.
And I think that was kind of my entry point into the
Oh.
world of mental health, right? And I wish I definitely, like I said, those 2 years were really difficult for me. But
Hmm.
had the 2 years not been what they were, I don't think I would be in this journey, in this space. So as much as it sucked, I think that's how my background has shaped just me coming into this field, me doing what I want to do, me being able to have the courage to actually rebel against the expected norm and
Yeah.
do what I want to do. So yeah, that's about my background.
Wow. That was quite nice.
I can hold it, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I hope both of our like the sound is fine.
I think it's a good mic.
Yeah. I hope that.
You can link it in your bio or like.
Yeah. Sure. Why not? Okay. So on this point, I also want to ask you, like, in your journey, has there been a significant point which has made you feel like, that was the turning point, and that is why you're here, probably. The turning point why you're here.
Ooh,
This is a heavy one.
it's a heavy one, and also something that I don't have to think about a lot because this is something I have given a lot of thought to before as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because of how significantly I remember that memory. Um, like I said, engineering background, family, all of that. My parents are very, very different people now. They've grown with me. They've become more open-minded with me, learned to
Hmm.
explore the world with me.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
in my mouth. But they weren't so back then,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I don't necessarily blame them. I mean, they didn't have the exposure either.
Yeah.
If I don't know things and they've not been taught things, then the world was very different back then.
Yeah.
Can't expect them to have behaved any differently than they did to a certain extent.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
But I remember, me telling my family that I want to do psych, and them just going like to falling from the sky. Huh? What is that? What? Are you serious? Are you joking? My dad literally said, "Are you joking?"
Oh my
And I
God.
was just like, maybe not.
Oh,
Um, so I remember like telling my family, and then that being a whole conversation for a while. And then my dad was like, "Oh, maybe you still want to do engineering." Like both sides kind of playing their own game, field
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
And like, but I remember there being one point where you know that's the turning point that I would call it. I just like one day, like after all of those fights, conversations, debates, everything,
hmm,
11 and 12 was so hard that like
yeah,
I told like in that moment all I could think about was that if I have to do for 4 more years what I have done the last 2 years, I'm not gonna make it.
oh,
Like
yeah,
that was my exact thought. And
yeah,
I remember that so clearly. It's just stuck. Like I'll tell you upright that like I have a really bad memory, but I have like a few things that I remember very clearly and very vividly, and that's one of those because I think that's the point where I decided that no matter what, I cannot not do what I want to do at this point of my life. Like if
yeah.
I go through with what I am being expected to do right now, I might not exist to continue doing what I actually want to do or what anybody wants me to do.
That's tough.
So that was a tough realization, especially at like 16, 17,
Yeah.
right? So I would say that was the turning point because I think, okay, I pressed a button.
It on again. I think so. Oh yeah, it's back on. It's back on.
I hope it's recording.
Yeah, it's recording. It's recording.
Okay,
It's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. These are some bloopers which we're gonna add anyways. So yeah,
So yeah, I'm just gonna hold it this way now.
I'll hold it for
Yes,
you.
please.
Yes. Okay.
Very fidgety.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
You were saying that how this was the turning point.
Basically, yeah. So I think that's one of the main things that finally told me that like I just got to fight the fight.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And I think so a lot of people still like 16, 17 is a very young age to realize a lot of things, in fact. And that was a very tough realization for you to have. And so what were some of the challenges? Like I do believe that the challenges were also your mom and dad trying to figure out that what your future should be.
yeah.
But what were the some other challenges in your mental health journey as you entered the field and also personally when you started understanding your mental health? So some challenges which you might have faced.
Hmm, interesting question. I
Mm.
think I think the challenges came a little later, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it was actually exciting.
Ah,
Feeling lonely turned into some sort of a journey of curiosity when I found that place, that site that I spoke about,
yeah.
because I was suddenly having conversations with
Huh.
people from
Mm-hmm.
all around the world,
Yeah.
same age as me,
Pretty exciting.
um, all of these wildly different worldviews and
Hmm.
headspaces
Hmm.
and perspectives that
Hmm.
we really don't think about or get to hear about.
Hmm.
And, you know, someone was interested to talk to you. Someone was happy to talk to
Talk to
you.
you. Yeah.
And that was a nice feeling.
Yeah.
So it felt good. It was like almost like making friends, but friends that you can be as transparent and honest with.
Yeah.
So it was quite nice to begin with. I spent a lot of time on that platform, a lot of years on that platform, learning about things, putting my skills to use, learning how to have empathetic conversations with people because
Very important.
boy, are we not taught that?
Yeah.
What are conversational skills? What are soft skills?
Yeah.
Totally not important. All I need is the Pythagoras theorem.
Yes, definitely.
Um,
Have you used it, by the way?
oh yeah, I just used it 2 days ago when I was seeing a client and I had to really talk to them about the most difficult experience and I was just like a squared plus b squared equals to c squared,
Oh, awesome. Great. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think the first few years were, I don't know, maybe they were difficult, but didn't feel as difficult compared to everything else that was going on. But I think what comes in, what I can more significantly remember right now is that your mental health journey kind of never stops.
Yeah.
It evolves, it grows, it goes up and down, but it never stops for a long, long time.
Yeah.
You feel better, you do better,
Yeah.
but working on your mental health is a very consistent thing that you've got to keep doing for a really long time to sustain it. It's almost like physical health. Just because you're in good health now doesn't mean if you do nothing, you're going to continue to remain in good health, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the same way for mental health as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like the hardest bit
Mm.
was trying to get professional help post being a psych student, post
Ah.
being a therapist. I feel like studying psych or being a therapist yourself sometimes makes you a little immune to psychotherapy.
Ah.
I don't know what it is. I feel like it's the familiarity with the concept or the familiarity with, I've had therapists, I've had great therapists, and sometimes it's a little like, I know exactly what you're going to say next.
Yeah.
I know exactly where that technique is going. I know
Yeah.
exactly what your
You can.
next homework is going to be.
Yeah.
It becomes a little predictable, which
Yeah.
also, I don't know, maybe there's also obviously some associated. I know that I have an element to my personality which likes to have control over a lot of things, or at
Mm.
least my immediate environment and myself, which also means that in cases like these or situations like these, I'm like, it makes you feel like you're in control, but at the same time, it doesn't do anything for you
Yeah, it
because
doesn't.
you're not actually letting the process,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? But I also don't know how to let that happen. I mean, I feel like for me, it's been hard to accept help in the form of interventions.
Mhm.
It helps a lot to
Yeah.
speak about things. It
Yeah.
helps a lot to have that space and to
Yeah.
talk and have someone listen to you.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's been a little difficult to let interventions kind of do their trick.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it's so difficult to let go of that control.
I don't know. It just feels too familiar. It just feels too
Comfortable.
known, not
Exactly.
comfortable, but known.
Yeah.
Like I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like it's
So
not
it's not gonna
working.
work.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
something about that. I mean, like, yeah. So I think that's been a little difficult. I would like to experience what it's like to be in therapy completely blank, because
Mm.
I remember one of my therapists, she wanted to do like a projective test during our initial sessions, and she was like, what is a projective test you've not learned? Like, because obviously if she does one that I know thoroughly about, it's going to introduce bias,
Yeah.
whether I like it or not. It's not a conscious process, it's 100% subconscious.
Yeah.
So I think that that might be one of the hardest things about,
Taking therapy as a
yeah,
therapist.
and also the sun being right in our face.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I think that.
Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. I think so. A lot of therapists, yeah, a lot of therapists do, I think so, find it a little difficult to find a therapist which matches and also helps them make them feel like, oh, you are a client. You're not a therapist in this space.
Exactly.
I think so. Maybe you should talk to someone as one book which made me feel like, oh, I relate so much because she's also a therapist and she
Right. Exactly,
goes for
exactly,
therapy.
exactly.
Yeah, and all her experiences make you feel so like, whoa.
Mm.
Okay. So, moving forward, by the way, I will be looking a little bit down because I don't remember everything. I have to speak a lot of times.
No cheat sheet.
Yeah. Um, Also, like, what were certain misconceptions you saw along the way in your mental health journey?
Ooh.
That's a good one, isn't
I
it?
mean, the cliche ones come to my head.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of what I personally experienced.
yeah,
I think the first ones that come to my mind is not about my mental health journey per se,
yeah,
or maybe it is. I remember graduating from my master's,
yeah,
and I had a colleague to meet. I was already working at that point for another organization, not as a therapist, but
yeah,
in a
yeah,
different role.
yeah.
And this organization
Hmm,
is a global organization, which
hmm,
means a majority of the employees are not from India, from around the
yeah,
world.
yeah,
There were two of us who were from India, me and
hmm,
this other lady.
hmm,
And she lived in the city where I did my master's from.
Okay.
And right after I finished, we decided, why don't we catch up?
Yeah.
Why don't we,
You know.
see each other?
Yeah.
And she's married.
Yeah.
And her husband joined us for dinner.
Okay.
And we say, sit down for dinner. First question I get asked, so, can you read what I'm thinking right now? Can
Oh
you tell
my
me what I'm thinking?
God. I've gotten that so many times. It's so irritating
I
at this point.
I genuinely thought that it was an over exaggerated misconception that people just said happened way too often, but actually didn't. And I was like, a day into being an actual therapist, somebody asked me if I can read their mind. And I'm like, so this has got to be common. This can't be a misconception that only a few therapists get.
Yeah.
And then, it was also, oh, are you like constantly looking at my body
Oh my
language and
God.
stuff
Yes.
like that? I'm just like, and then from that day, like I came up with the phrase, I'm off the clock. Anytime someone says this to me, I'm just like, I'm off the clock. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing that right now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's usually totally what I do, but
Yeah.
not right now. So yeah, that's one that I can recall. Um, I think another misconception that I've come across a lot, whether it's through me or whether it's through my clients or like parents of my clients, is that they almost expect that you go to therapy for a specific problem, which is true a lot of times. But they almost expect that like 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions in, once you've talked about the problem,
It's all good.
it's done with.
Yeah.
Like, how much longer do you need this?
Yeah.
Um, And then there's a very understandable fear of dependency,
Yeah.
but also something that is overused, where
Mhm.
parents will feel like their kids are dependent on this third person or
Hmm.
second person
Hmm.
to get them through difficult experiences in life,
Yeah.
which I feel like is an understandable fear because unless you're a therapist yourself, you don't necessarily know
Yeah.
the extent to which therapists put in an effort to make sure that your clients are not dependent on you.
Yeah.
Right? That's the last thing you want because you don't want a client calling you 2 in the morning saying, this happened, what do I do?
Yeah. Exactly. You want them to actually have their own skill set
Exactly,
helping them.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
that's not the point. I mean, so it might sound like a bad business decision, but
Yeah.
that's how it works. I mean, you want the best for your clients. You do. This is sure it's a profession, sure it makes you money, but not at the cost of another human being
Yeah. Definitely. Yes.
at all. Um, so I think that's another misconception.
Hmm.
I'm not going to repeat the cliche ones, but I think these are the two big ones that I have kind of come across majorly. Trying to think if there's any. Oh, not misconception, but I feel like something that's really, really. Do you want me to hold?
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like another one that's really, really prevalent is therapy is too expensive.
Oh yes. That's there. Yes.
I get it. Financial situations are different for everyone,
Yeah.
and therapy might genuinely be very expensive for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I find it a little bit, I'm trying to look for the right word, but I find it a little bit of a misconception or a little bit of a skewed perspective
Yeah.
when people
Yeah.
say therapy is expensive, but would happily go out and buy a top, what, 2K every
Yeah.
weekend
Yeah.
or order in burger and a pizza every week
Every week.
or every
Yeah.
third day.
Yeah.
Um, yes, food is a necessity, but not expensive food that you order from outside. I feel like it's definitely about budgeting, right?
Yeah. It is.
It's always going to feel expensive. I have been there. I
Yeah.
have been a working professional and I have felt like therapy is too expensive.
Yeah. Definitely.
But
Yes.
what you tell yourself that this is just a commitment that you're making to yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
as you're comfortable paying money for a burger because you've been doing it for the last 10, 15 years and you're used to it.
Yeah.
You do that with therapy, it's going to feel natural.
Yeah. That's true.
um, but yeah, I think that's just one of the things. I don't feel people see it from that perspective or prioritize their own health as much as they should over other financial decisions that could be compromised on
Yeah.
for the
Actually.
same.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's actually true. This I think so is very true in a lot of cases that I see people buying, like they do retail therapy, which people call retail therapy
Oh yeah,
nowadays. Yes.
totally retail therapy is
Yes.
therapy.
Yeah.
Add the word therapy to anything and it's good for your
Yeah,
mental health.
exactly. And then after that, they come to therapy and they're like, therapy is so expensive. But I bought like a Gucci bag last week.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, just that. But yeah, and I think so. One of the misconceptions which I have also seen is that once somebody said that, oh, why do you need therapy? Just be strong. Therapy is for weak. So I mean, I really don't get it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know when we'll move on from
just
this.
be strong, Harshita.
Yeah, I
You'll
just
get through this.
yes, I will. I will. Yes, I
That's
just
all you need.
yeah,
3 words of motivation.
yeah. That works.
Just be strong.
Yes,
Secret recipe. Don't tell anyone.
yeah. Magic words you'll only get on this podcast.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot actually. I think so. We are still gonna move on in in terms of misconceptions and stigma in this
Yeah.
society.
Do you feel like the focus is too much on the mountains and we're like black spots?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Okay.
If
I mean, unless people want to see black spots, that's also fine. I mean, clearly the mountain is the better view.
yeah, that is the way to view definitely. But I think so. We are
Okay, okay,
visible.
good.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing is that now that you have been through a significant amount of you have been through mental health struggles, you have seen a lot of things in mental health. Now, if I had to ask you, what are certain unexpected sources which you have found, or places you have found, or things you have found which you practice as coping strategies and which have really helped you to cope in your mental health journey?
Unexpected.
hmm Unexpected, or maybe for some of us might be expected or unexpected for you, or either ways.
Um, I think I don't know. I mean, research doesn't say that this is unexpected,
Okay.
but I felt like it was very interesting when I first started to realize this happening, which was that helping other people
Mm-hmm.
helped me.
Oh yeah.
As much as that might sound selfish as a therapist, um, it gives you a sense of purpose.
Yeah, it does.
It makes you feel like you're good at something,
Mm-hmm.
makes you feel like you're making a difference in someone's life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um, and altruism, empathy, all of these things have long shown to be really, really beneficial for you, your psychological health, um, the connections that you build with other folks, all of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, research says it's pretty expected, but it's also strange
Yeah, it
because,
is.
again, at the same time, it might not be the same way for every single person. I have heard a lot of folks, a lot of fellow therapists who do find it a little overwhelming to do what they do, which
Yeah.
is completely understandable. I mean,
Yeah.
you're day in and day out,
Mm-hmm.
um, day in and day out, listening to stories of folks, very difficult stories, very difficult experiences and journeys, and it can be a lot, it can be quite burdensome um, to bear all by yourself, right? But for me, it just somehow always felt really good. Like I say this even now to my partner and other folks that are close to me that on my worst days I will not want to do a session. I will have clients that are already scheduled for the day. I will be like, no, I just don't want to get on that call,
Yeah.
but I will get on that call obviously because I'm not gonna ditch my client.
Client. Yeah.
um and I will feel better after that hour.
Yeah.
Like that one conversation will make me feel so much better, even though it's not about me, even though it's 100% not about me. It's about this other person, but it just makes you feel better. It works in a really strange way, but it works for me. So I feel like that's been one of the most unexpected
Mm-hmm.
sources of resilience in a certain way.
Yeah.
It's also kind of helped me just pursue more of what I wanted to do, right? Which contributed a lot to the amount of volunteer work I did
Hmm.
and the amount of time I spent speaking to peers,
Hmm.
trying to support their mental health journeys. Um, so yeah, I think that would be my unexpected source of
Okay.
motivation or
Coping.
coping. Yeah.
Yeah. But on the other hand, like what are certain other things which you might have tried, which have helped you and which might help some other people as well?
Ooh, um, difficult one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the most common things you'll hear is getting in physical exercise, physical activity.
Yeah.
I hate exercising.
Oh boy. I can
I
see that. I can see that.
I
Why? We walked a little and you were literally panting.
don't expose me. Um, I hate exercising with so much passion. It's unreal.
Yeah.
I hate going to the gym.
Yeah.
It's the most boring activity for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely monotonous. It feels too restrictive. I know I have friends who find working out to be incredibly beneficial for them.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I just wish that was me. I wish I have a friend who said, I'm like, how do you like keep working out so consistently every single day? And she's like, it makes my anxiety better. And I'm like,
How? How are you able
how?
to do that?
You're like God's favorite if that's happening.
Yeah.
Um, but on the other hand, what I have found really helpful for me along those lines is sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really exciting for me. It is exercise at the end of the day, but it's
Yeah.
not monotonous.
Uh-huh.
It's exciting.
Yes.
It's got that thrill, that rush, that
Yeah.
competitiveness.
Yeah.
I've always been a sports person. It always really, really enjoyed it, made me happy, and I'm sure has the same benefits as other physical
Yeah,
exercises.
definitely. Any sort of exercise works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember like there was one point where during the pandemic, I live in a society,
Yeah.
so because it was the pandemic, a bunch of the kids were back home, and when I say kids, I mean folks aged 20 to 30.
Yeah.
Not really kids, but
Yeah. Okay. Young adults,
young
people.
adults.
Yes.
Yeah, we're so used to being called kids. That's the word that comes to your mind as much as we hate it. But we played badminton every single day,
Oh,
every
must be
evening
fun.
for like 2 3 hours because we were
Wow.
a group of like 10 people and we just had so much fun.
Yeah.
We spoke, we laughed, we played, we took turns, and it was just a whole experience. And I remember feeling like those 2 3 hours you just didn't think of anything else. It was just
Mm.
that. It was just that
You're just in the flow.
you're just in that flow. You're just enjoying that experience, enjoying that moment, and that's all that exists in that moment.
Yeah.
That was incredibly beneficial for me. Like I said, I've always been into sports. In school, I played throwball. I
Wow.
was super into roller skating. I did that for a few years.
Impressive.
I loved roller skating. It was, I think, one of the most favorite things I've ever done.
Do you do it now?
I don't need to do it now because you need space, good quality space for roller skating. So I
Let's
used
get you
to
roller skates and down the road.
down the hill, Harshita. Is that what you want from me?
No, no,
You
not
want me to
just
roll off?
just joking. People don't do this at home. Yeah.
This is what you get on cozy conversations.
Ah, yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
But no, I really, really enjoyed it. We did artistic skating and we did speed skating. So
Artistic skating.
artistic skating, so you dance on skates.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would love to do that someday.
It's so fun. It's so fun. We used to have like these annual performances and stuff like that, which is like a whole dance show but on skates. It was incredible. And I mean, I've been swimming since I was 3 years old,
Wow.
so that's very common.
No, I don't know how to swim. Yeah, I don't know how to swim. I
Well,
am
it's really
expert.
not who you go to when there's a tsunami or something like that. I mean, you
Okay.
can't swim in a swim
Suna
in a tsunami,
tsunami. But
but
in case you're in a sea and you need help, you don't call me. Yeah.
we need to get you to learn swimming.
Yeah, I will. I will. Yes. Moving on.
Moving on.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
So, is there something specific you would like to say to someone who is trying to seek help but is struggling with that?
Mm, Hmm. I feel like everyone has their own set of reasons for
Mm-hmm.
why they're struggling.
Yeah.
I come across a lot of them as a practitioner myself because I'm extremely enthusiastic about finding people good therapists.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Uh,
same here. Mm-hmm.
so like if a friend of a friend of a friend needs a therapist, I'm like, me, I will find you a good therapist.
Yeah.
Tell me what you need. So funny story. A friend of my partner's, her friend needed a therapist, and this. middle friend was asking my partner, and he was just like, oh, my partner is a therapist. Why don't you reach out to her and she will help you find someone? So this person reached out to me and they told me what they wanted. And, I didn't have anybody that I personally knew that would work for them because this
Yeah.
was an offline recommendation that they were looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
So I asked around in my network, for reliable resources and stuff like that and sent them a contact, which I had gotten immediately.
Yeah.
But I was not satisfied. Like, just one contact of a random person I don't know. I
Ah.
don't know.
Yeah.
So I followed up with this person a few weeks later, and I was just, hey, how's it going? Did you end up having a chance to reach out? They were like, oh, not yet. And I was like, oh, that's totally fine. If you have any questions, if you need anything, let me know. And then I asked this other really, really good professional friend of mine if they knew someone, because they do have been in the industry for a really long time, have a lot of connections and a lot of
Yeah.
network,
Yeah.
and they gave me a few referrals for some known good professionals
Hmm.
in the area that I was looking for.
Hmm.
So I reached out to them again, like a third time, a few weeks later, and I'm just like, so sorry for texting you again, but here are a few more resources that I would like to send across your way. And they were just like, no, I'm really glad that you messaged, right? And they still hadn't reached out. This is maybe a month later, and they still
Yeah.
hadn't reached out.
Yeah.
There's that uncertainty, there's that hesitation,
That is.
whether it's about, oh, what was it going to be like, or
How
who is
does
a
it
good person to
work?
see, how does it work, should I
Yeah.
even try this,
Yeah.
or how do I talk to a stranger, how do I open up, all of these kind of reservations, very understandable reservations. But um, the one thing I would say is, at least for India, unfortunately, really, really vet your therapist.
Hmm.
Look at their background, ask for portfolios, ask for reviews,
Yeah.
ask for experience,
Yeah.
get to know them, ask questions. You are going to be your most vulnerable self for this person. You deserve to know who you're opening up to. You deserve to know who you're giving that opportunity and privilege to help you with your journey.
Yeah.
Um, really do your research. Ask for recommendations from people that you know, if anything. That is one of the most important things I will say. And I think just knowing that everyone is deserving of help, like, right? No matter how big or small your problem feels, it's deserving to be heard,
Yeah.
right? You just don't know what can come out of the process if you speak to another human being. And we're just so conditioned, we're just so used to not talking about our actual feelings.
Yeah. That's true.
Like, right? We're just like, hey, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? I'm good. What's up? And then you
That's
go
it.
about with your day. That's it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's how every conversation goes.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I have clients who will come in and, we'll just start very generally, like, hey, how's it going? And they'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm fine. And then they'll pause and then they'll be like, wait, I don't have to say I'm fine to you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's exactly how it goes sometimes. I'm not making this up. And like that's kind of what I mean. We're just so used to saying I'm fine to a question of how are you, which is supposed to be genuine, which is supposed to mean something and not be a greeting.
Yeah.
So I do understand it, how incredibly difficult it can be to be yourself, to be vulnerable. Um, Another just short sidestep story. When I finished my bachelor's, I was a part of this 7 people group, out of which I was only close to like 2 people.
Hmm.
So at some point, it started to feel like, do we just hang out for the sake of hanging out? Do we just spend
Mm.
time together for the sake of spending time together? So when I stepped into my master's, I kind of made it a point that I'm not interested in investing time and energy in friendships that aren't genuine,
Mm.
or where I can't be myself a
Myself.
100%,
Yeah.
which meant that if I didn't have that many friends, that was fine. But at least the people that I can be around, I am my 100% true self with.
Yeah.
And that is quite a wild, crazy side and very chaotic side of me. Um,
But that's okay when you're with
but that's
your
okay.
friends.
I found equally chaotic friends. Um, Case in point. Um,
We're not exposing each other on this podcast.
you did. I'm just following your lead.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, and that felt good. It felt really freeing and relieving. You don't have
mm,
to try so hard to be around these people. You can just be yourself, exist exactly the way you are,
mm.
and that just makes a world of a difference. So before you're able to do that with people around you, therapy is one space where you can just always do it. You don't have to lie, you don't have to pretend. and just say what's on your mind. Even if you are angry at your therapist, you can tell them. Like that's the best part. Like
You don't have to please them.
you don't have to please them. You don't have to pretend. You can absolutely say 100% of what's on your mind. And I think that's the most beautiful part. So I think the only thing I want to say is just try.
Yeah.
Find a good therapist for yourself. Please, please find a good therapist for yourself. That's the most important part of it. It doesn't matter the number of interventions, if they're not a good person, if they're not a good communicator, it's not going to work. If they aren't on your frequency, it's not going to work. So spend most amount of time just finding a good therapist for yourself or ask for recommendations. If you don't come across a good therapist for the first time or have a bad experience, don't let that be the end of the journey for you. There are a ton of good therapists out there. It's just a matter of being a little bit patient, finding the right one for yourself. So yeah, that I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. I do believe that finding the right therapist is one of the very, very important steps in your mental health journey, because
Mm.
if you find the wrong one, it can impact.
Oh boy.
But yeah, you can still be positive. You can still move on. And I've seen
100%.
people. Yeah, I still feel that a lot of people still find the courage to move on again after having a bad experience, and that takes a lot and lot of courage. And I really
100%.
appreciate that.
For sure.
Okay. Um, First of all, thank you for sharing all this. But one last question which I have for you is that, we are doing this podcast, and one of the main reasons is that I want people to feel like, that they can talk about their mental health journey as well, and they can seek help if they need, and just to make people feel that, mental health is something you need to talk about as well. So what is the impact you want this story of yours to have on people, or what is something you would want the listeners to, take away from this story?
Um,
Yeah. Oh yes, okay.
very.
Yeah, very near your mouth. Okay, yeah.
I don't want to breathe into it. um,
Continue.
I think I think the only thing I want people to take away is that we're all the same at the
Mhm.
core of it.
Yeah.
Um, as whether a therapist, whether a client, whether an engineer, a doctor, lawyer, a designer, a chef, whatever it may be, you are at the core of it. We're all human beings. We're very different. We're very uniquely different, but we have very similar needs, which is to feel connected, which
Yes.
is to feel we're social creatures at the end of the day. We're social beings. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or an ambivert, we all crave connection. We all crave love. We all crave to be seen. Um, and it's possible to feel seen.
Yeah.
For the longest time, and in the world that we live in and the culture that we've grown up in, it's never been given enough importance. The feeling of feeling seen.
Yes.
Nobody talks about it. I
Yeah.
don't think I ever heard somebody tell me what feeling seen meant or how important it was. But it really is. It's transformative to have people that you can truly be yourself with.
Yeah.
So the only thing I want people to take away is whether you try therapy or not, just seek genuine connections. Seek genuine friendships, relationships. It can be transformative. It can change your life so extensively. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
And it's the most underrated thing.
Yeah, it is.
It's the most we don't talk about it enough. Connections are just incredibly powerful. And there's so much research to say that as well. They're like, just human connection can change so much for you and so much for your experience.
Hmm.
So the only thing I want to say is that I know it's scary. I know what it feels like to have your trust broken, to have people go behind your back, to have people leave you, all of that. It sucks. But you can't let that be the end of the road for you. You can't let that be the defining experience that says, oh, people are just not trustworthy. I'm not going to try anymore. You're shutting yourself off to so many incredible experiences because
Yeah.
trust me, if had I done that, there was this one time I had a friend um, that I confided in, told the most difficult things about my
Hmm.
experience and journey about. They went ahead and told other people all of that.
What
And
the hell?
I was just like, ma'am, not your place, not your story.
Seriously, no.
Um, but I could have at that point chosen that, oh, it's not worth trusting people. But in that case, I would not have met the incredible people I have today,
Yeah.
including you.
Same here.
Um, so I understand the instinct to want to not do it again.
Yeah.
And the feeling of, oh, it's just so difficult, it's such a lengthy process, trusting someone all over again, starting from scratch, it's worth it. Every single experience, every single friendship is just worth the experience. You do learn something, as cliche, as horrible as it might sound that you learn something from bad experiences. You do though.
Yeah.
There is something to take away from every experience. And I have a friend who was telling me about losing friends. Um,
Yeah.
and they were like, I lost her. I was like, but I feel like any friendship that's lost, like there must have been a reason for that
Yeah.
friendship to be lost.
Yeah.
Even if it was an incredibly good friendship. I was then telling my partner about this instance, and I had this really close friend of mine. We were best friends for like 7 years,
Yeah.
and one fine random month last year, it just stopped. Like
Yeah.
for some reason, we just had a falling out. They just stopped feeling the friendship
Yeah.
as they used to before, and I was just like very perplexed, very shocked. How do you just stop? But if that's what it had come to, and if that's how they felt, there was not a friendship that was doing anything in my life anymore, and that's
Yeah.
not a friendship that would have in any way been constructive to
Yeah.
my experience. So I mean, it sucks, but please keep looking for newer experiences, newer friends, newer people. I think that's the most important thing out there.
I think so. We see a lot of talk about self love, like on Instagram, on social media, so much that we forget how important it is to talk about having meaningful connections as well with
100%,
others.
100%. It's so important to love yourself, but
But
it's not a replacement for connection. It's not a replacement for actual, genuine human connection.
yeah, definitely. Okay, it was really nice chatting with you, Ishani, and thank you so much for sharing this
Of
experience
course.
with all of us. And I know it takes a lot of courage to actually come up, show your face on this camera, and actually talk about your mental health journey, especially in a society where mental health is attached to so much stigma. And I hope that with this experience, you also feel something and you have something to take away.
100%. It felt really natural. It didn't feel pressured. You make it a very comfortable space to talk
Yeah, we're
in.
just near the mountains, you see. It's the mountains
It's
doing
not
their
the
job.
mountains, it's you doing your job. But yeah, it didn't feel awkward at all or hesitant at all. It
Yeah.
was really just a conversation, a cozy conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking this initiative to hopefully make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, I just hope and I wish to keep this conversation and this podcast as raw as possible. So you
Hmm.
will be seeing a lot of bloopers out there and you us just adjusting mics, looking at tab or looking at each other
And
and
just sharing a shared look of don't you dare say that.
exactly, just that. And I hope that somebody who really needs to hear these stories gets to hear these stories. And I do really believe in that we make stories and stories make them. As a narrative practitioner, I do believe that. So, yeah, if you do wish to share your story with us, you can write to me at thecozymindbyharshita@gmail.com. And if you do like the podcast, follow, share, subscribe, whatever is there, right? And yeah, that's all for today. And I'll see you in the next episode, everyone. Stay hopeful. Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. See you. Bye.